Today, 2 local councils in the United Kingdom have put out press releases about the government placing asylum seekers in United Kingdom British Army disused army camps. And these 2 councils are really spread apart. One is in Inverness in Scotland, and the other one, Wealdon District Council, is in Sussex. And in total, they aim to house 900 men in these army barracks. Going by the layout of these types of places, you would imagine that the majority, if not all, those who will be housed will be fighting age single males. And that has got to be a concern. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at both the statements and then look at why we're doing this. Because it's ridiculous when you listen to the excuses for doing it by the UK government, the Labour Party nonetheless. So the first one is the statement put out today, this morning, by the Highland Council, who look after Inverness. And in a joint statement from convener Bill Lobin, leader Raymond Brenner and opposition leader Alistair Christie, so none of them are happy. They say the Highland Council has been notified by the UK government it intends to use the Cameron Barracks in Inverness to place circa 300 asylum seekers on a phased basis. Highland Council understands this property will be used as transitional accommodation from early December 2025 for up to 12 months. Very similar dates and times given in both these councils. For clarification, Cameron Barracks is not owned by Highland Council nor any of its local public sector partners. The first written confirmation, which was used on the basis of a briefing for key partners by Home Office officials, was received by the Council yesterday, the 27th of October, and was confidential. The Home Office is the lead agency for resettlement, and decisions regarding the use of Cameron Barracks are made by the Ministry of Defence and Home Office alone. The UK government has indicated that the Council has no direct role in supporting the asylum seekers after their arrival. There's a bit that you need to be aware of that'll come to once I've read out the statement about that. The leader of the Highland Council wrote to the Secretary of State for the Home Department, Shabina Mahmood, last week to request confirmation and additional information. To date, we have not received a response. We await more detail on how Inverness was selected over other available locations and how community cohesion will be maintained given the large number of asylum seekers planned relative to the local population. We have repeatedly sought written confirmation from the Home Office as to their plans. We've already got that. We'll talk about that when finished. The UK government has informed us that their accommodation will be self-contained with all necessary services provided on site. The asylum seekers will not be detained, meaning they will be free to leave the site should they wish. Their intention is to use the barracks for short-term accommodation before people are moved to dispersed housing around the UK to await the outcome of their asylum applications, which is basically what they're doing just now with hotels. The Home Office has informed us that asylum applications will not be processed in Inverness, which will create more disruption. Our main concern is the impact this proposal will have on community cohesion, given the scale of the proposals as currently stand. Inverness is a relatively small community, but the potential impact locally and across wider Highlands appears not to have been taken into consideration by the UK government. For the above reasons, a special meeting of Highland Council will be held on Thursday the 6th of November after the Communities in Place Committee for members to discuss the UK government's plans to place asylum seekers in Inverness. Now, before I go on to the one in Sussex, what they're saying here about supporting them. What happens when inevitably they're granted refugee status? Because in Scotland, we have a rule where the community councils are legally obliged to provide accommodation when anybody presents themselves as homeless, unintentionally homeless. And anybody who gets granted refugee status, tick that box, which is why we've seen a mad influx, particularly in Glasgow, where people granted refugee anywhere in the UK then have free access to travel wherever they want in the UK. And they come to Scotland because of this peculiar law that we have with homeless. So they're already in Scotland. And when you say, well, there's 300, so it's only 300 people. Well, no, because as soon as 100 of them are processed and moved out, they put another 100 in. So over the course of 12 months, I don't know how long the asylum process takes, but I believe it's circa 3 months. So what you could do is, in the course of, they're saying it will be up to 12 months, kind of bet your bottom dollar it'll be extended, but let's just say it's 6 months. What then's going to happen is, every 3 months, you spin the 300. So you've got a 4-figure sum in the first year who will now be put out into the community, and Highlands and Islands are legally obliged, because of Scottish Government law, to house these people. It's £1,000 a year. I'll bet there's probably more than that British citizens on a council waiting list now for houses. And these people would be given priority because they are homeless. You see, this is how it works. So that's the Inverness Cameron Barracks story. Crowborough Army Camp, that is under Wealden District Council. And they've put out 2 statements. I'm not going to get into the first one. That was just basically an open letter from the leader of the council a week ago. But today they've put out, thankfully, a shorter one than the Highland Council. And there's dates today. Says Home Office notifies Council of its planned temporary use of Crowborough, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, Army Camp for Asylum Accommodation Centre. The Home Office has told Wealden District Council and other local service providers that it intends to use the camp as a temporary asylum accommodation centre for up to 12 months from the end of November 2025. So we're reading this up to 12 months thing again, and they're saying end of November. Highland Council are saying start of December. Maybe it takes you a month to get them up to the Highlands of Scotland, I don't know. The Home Office indicates that they intend to accommodate up to 600 single adults in this one. So we're now at 900 in total getting put in army barracks. Wealden District Council understands that the aim is to utilise the site in order to help reduce the number of asylum seekers being housed in hotels. Right, this is the bit I want to talk to you about once I get the statements done, because this is easy fixed, right? Wealden District Council understands that the aim is to utilise the site in order to help reduce the number of asylum seekers that are being accommodated in hotels. Councillor James Partridge, who is a leader of Wealden Council and lives in Crowborough, said, "I have written to the Secretary of State for Migration and Citizenship to make it clear that local people will be rightly concerned about the effects which using Crowborough Camp as asylum accommodation will have on them in the wider area, to urge them to plan accordingly. I believe we should work with the Home Office to ensure the plans are as effective as possible and there is little impact on the community as possible." Behind me is Glasgow Sheriff Court, one of Europe's busiest courts. And because of that fact, we'll see every week several members of the public and podcasters, etc., facing trials in here for a number of things. However, an increasing number are for posts on social media, videos on YouTube, etc., etc., etc. And for that reason and that reason alone, I believe it would make sense for everybody who does podcasts as a minimum to join the Free Speech Union, because they will help protect you when the law turns on you. That doesn't give you carte blanche to say what you want as a member, but it does give you the protection to help you when the law goes wrong. This is not now only something that should be considered by podcasters, because we are seeing more and more people each day arrested. Normal people who don't even see themselves as civilian journalists arrested for posts on social media. So it makes sense to join the Free Speech Union because we live in this country in 2025. We will continue to discuss the situation with other service providers and to press the Home Office to make sure that the site runs well within our local community, as it did in 2023 when we welcomed the people of Afghanistan. So what we've got here is they're clearly stating that this is to relieve pressure from the hotels, which is something that the Labour Party's promised, that they were going to cut the numbers in hotels. I'm going to do another story about that later on because I believe the figures have trebled recently from the circa £5 billion per year that we all had in our head as a cost of this, and it's now circa 15 billion. But I'll do that in a standalone video. Now, there's an easier way of stopping this, and that's stop accepting them. And let me tell you why. It is illegal to claim asylum once you have been granted asylum. And I know through my own efforts, when I travelled out to Lesbos in July, August, can't remember. Anyway, I went to Lesbos myself to identify how these people, after going to Cali and getting the shock of my life with the numbers, I then decided to go to Lesbos. And when I got there, what I found out was concerning. But I'm glad I've done it. And I spoke to these people, asylum seekers, spoke to one guy in particular, Nelson from Cameroon, and he explained to me the process. They're almost guaranteed to get the asylum granted, this refugee status. They're then given a travel document that allows them to move to the mainland in Greece, and then they can travel anywhere in the Schengen area. And there are restrictions. They're meant to go 90 days out of 180 or whatever, but once they're gone, they're gone. And then they come to the UK, and it's no passports they're flinging in the water. It's their refugee travel documents issued by Greece, Spain or Italy, depending on where they land in the EU. And it is illegal to claim asylum once you have already been granted asylum. So our government, I know that, our government must know that, and they must find a work around this. Because nobody who came through, and that's a vast majority, came through that process of landing in Greece, Italy or Spain and being granted refugee status have got the right to claim again. So do your jobs. And how I can find that out as a non-journalist, just a citizen that's concerned, then the British government must know that. And that's the easy way to rectify that, is to find a way round identifying these people and pack them back to Greece, because they gave them refuge, not us. If you want others to see this video, click the thumbs up, put your comments below, hit the share button. That'll help the channel. The channel's getting a bit choked just now, so if you want the videos to get seen, please help me do that. If you've not already done so, or you think you have done, check if you're still subscribed, and if not, hit the subscribe button, because a lot of people are, funnily enough, becoming unsubscribed. But more important than all that, unless you're the type of person that comes here illegally because you're already acclaimed and been granted asylum in the mainland of Europe, then not you, but everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.